Okay, in this video we will talk about how to create setup page with which basically accepts user credentials, okay, and store it as an encrypted format inside a configuration file called passwords.conf. Okay, so we will see a use case for that one. Now we will be seeing use case for our TMDB app only. Now if you remember from our previous video, when we talked about an example of setup page where we basically through the setup page we enabled a save search, we changed the cron schedule, we changed the dispatch earliest time or latest time, right? So this is a separate use case where we will be storing a user credential using the setup page. Okay, so for that, first what we'll do is we will create the setup page first, then we will see what are the changes we have to do, or what are the differences we are doing compared to our previous video. Okay, so in this video also you'll be getting that video link over here so that you can reference it as well. So for that, what I'll do is we'll go to first our TMDB app, etc apps. Inside TMDB app, as we did previously, inside the default folder only, we have to create the setup.xml file, right? So I'll just copy any of this file and I will rename it to setup.xml. Okay, so this is the first thing we have to do. So let us first try to do this one, then we will see the other stuff. Now what are the use cases? So if I just open, like let me show you what we are planning to do it today. So we will be creating a setup page, something like this one. So basically it will be asking for a username, password, and then confirm password will be automatically rendered by Splunk. So we will see how to do this one as well. And there is a concept called realm, so which I'll be discussing very shortly now. Okay, now we will be saving our username and password for our TMDB website. Okay, now as you know, for TMDB API call we need a API key, right? So mainly in the password we will be saving our API key over here, okay, which will be encrypted format, will be stored in encrypted format. Now, and for our use case, if you remember when I talked about a scripted input in Splunk, right, we created a scripted input called tmdb underscore upcoming, right? We developed a Python file. Let me show you that Python file as well. So it basically, what it is doing, it is basically calling a API for TMDB API, which is basically getting the upcoming movies, right? And it is indexing into Splunk, right? Now over there, if you remembered, I have used this API key in our code, which is basically we are exposing our API key in our code, right? Now we will not be exposing our API key in our code. We will be accessing that API key through the setup page, like wherever we are saving that one, those from there we will be accessing our API key and call this particular endpoint, so that our API key will not be exposed at all. So we will be modifying this particular script today to make that change happen as well. Okay, so that means we are not only saving our password through setup page, we are also retrieving our password from that file and using it in our Python script as well. Okay, so first thing we'll do is we'll go to our Visual Studio Code. We'll open that folder over here. Okay, so we will be inside our etc apps. So we'll be working with our TMDB app today, so I'll be selecting that folder over here. Okay, so if I just go to default, so our setup.xml just now we have created, right? So it is coming up over here. So let us remove everything which were there inside that file. Okay, so we will be now creating that setup page similar to this picture whatever we have, right? So as you remember, so this is our block, right? So let us quickly create our setup page over here, right? So the base element is the setup, right? So setup. Okay, so this is our base element. Inside that base tag we have block element over there, right? So let us create that block element over here. Okay, block. Okay, so now inside the block, we are, first thing is we have to create this one, add new credential, right? So that is nothing but the title, block title, right? So let us do that one. Title is equals to add new credential, add new credential. Okay, so this is our title, CLs, right? I think we have a S over here. Yeah, add new credentials over here. Okay, so we have a title over here. Now inside the block we have to give the endpoint as well. Now before I giving the endpoint, let us create the structure first. Okay, so inside the block we have one, two, three text boxes basically, because this is a special text box. Because of this one only, Splunk will be creating this one as well. Let us see that one first. Okay, so we'll be creating a input first. So input, so let us close that input tag over here, right? Inside the input, the as you remember, when I discussed initially the setup page basics, each and every input corresponds to a field name over there, right? So FIELD, field. Okay, so some field name we have to give it over here. Okay, so let us create the structure, then will try to understand. Okay, which field we don't know, because this particular, through this setup page basically we will be creating a new entry to a file called passwords.conf. Okay, because we will be storing the user credentials over there. So input label will be LABEL, input label will be, so let us close that label first. Okay, so the label will be the name of the text box, right, which is nothing but the username over here. So username, right, and the input type will be text, right? So type will be text over here, right? Type. So we created that username field over here, right? Let us try to create that other field called password over here. We will be updating this field very shortly. We need to understand certain stuff over here. So we will copy this whole input, we will paste it over here, we will keep this field blank now. Okay, now the label will be over here. Let us go back to our picture, the password, right? Password, the type will be text again, right? So now as this, okay, let us try to see that one. As I told, this is a very special field, so that's why we will not be creating this confirm password field again. Okay, so there is a optional field called realm over here. So let us try to create that one as well. Okay, realm, type will be text over here. Okay, so we created the skeleton first. Okay, so now let us try to understand how we will be updating that passwords.conf file. Okay, so for that we have to understand a endpoint called storage/passwords. Okay, now this one, as you remember from my previous video, I told you how to see the REST API reference manual, right? Now inside the REST API reference manual, the first thing is the access endpoint. Inside that access endpoint, the last API is, the second last API is storage/passwords. Okay, now for this one you need to have, what is basically it do, it create or update user credentials or list credentials for all the users. Okay, so that means either it can, using this particular endpoint, either you can create or update the user credentials which will be stored encrypted format inside Splunk. Now over here one catch is like the keys. I think Splunk uses a particular key to encrypt that particular data. Now that key is stored inside your Splunk deployment only, which is not a very good level of encryption method, but compared to storing that password in very clear text, I think this approach is better than that one. But in terms of very high, if you have very high security stuff, then you have to, we have to think about other solutions over here, okay, instead of using this particular endpoint over here. Now we will be using this particular endpoint. Now if I just see the post method of this particular endpoint, it requires three things called name, password, and the realm over here, right? So name is the credentials username, and the password is the credential user password, right? So first field name will be our name over here, okay? So we will be for the username. So basically inside the passwords.conf, it will create a stanza. We'll see very shortly how that stanza will look like, okay? And now inside that stanza there will be three key value pairs. Among them, two are required, one is optional. So required is the name, so that's why we are using this field name called name over here, okay, for username. And for password, the field name is password over here, okay? So this one, so we know the two fields name. We know the third field name as well called realm over here, okay? Now what this guy stands for. Now to understand realm over here, let us try to see this one. Like suppose in your app you are storing more than one password. It possible, right? Using the setup page, you are basically creating separate passwords over there, right? Because the way we will be creating this particular setup page, whenever you try to add something to this setup page and say click on save, it will be adding a new stanza. If it is a different name, then only it will be adding a new stanza to your passwords.com. That means you will be able to store multiple passwords to your system, right? Now think about this one. Suppose you have a username, let's say Sid, okay, which you are using in your Unix box 1, okay, and same username you will be using in your Unix box 2, right? Now it may be confusing if you save this particular stuff in your passwords.conf, because in that the username will be same, so the stanza name will be almost same over here, right? So it will be confusing. So in that way realm comes into picture, where maybe this Unix box 1 you are using for testing purpose, and this Unix box 2 you are using for production purpose, right? So you can specify what purpose you are using that particular credentials over there, okay? So you will be mentioning either test or prod, something like that, or maybe some other purpose, right? So basically you are identifying a similar username or similar credentials using a realm over here, okay? So that's why realm is used over here. So we have created the third field over here as well. So in this case our endpoint will be as we already saw, this storage / passwords over here, okay? So this one, so we know our endpoint. Now what will be our entity, right? ENTITY. So this is important stuff. Now whenever in my previous video we saw we updated a safesearch.conf, right? Over there we have given the stanza name of the search or the safe search name over there inside this entity block, right? Now as through this setup page we will be creating a new entity over here, okay? That means we do not know the entity name when this setup page will be saving, right? So in those cases where you will be creating a new entry through the setup page, okay, the entity name always will be _new, okay? You have to remember this one. So our setup page is ready, okay? So we created the setup page. Now let us try to restart Splunk and see whether at least this setup page is getting rendered or not properly, okay? Now one thing, okay, let us try to see first whether this particular setup page is getting rendered or not. We'll restart Splunk once, okay? We'll come back after Splunk restart completed. Okay, our Splunk has been restarted. So let us log into our Splunk. Okay, we will go to apps, manage apps. We'll go to our TMDB. If you see, the setup is coming up over here. Okay, it is displaying, but it is not displaying the confirm password. Let us see what's going on. We'll go to our setup.xml. For password, the type is text. Okay, this as I told, this is a very special field. I forgot to change the type of it. The type will be password over here. Okay, the type will be password over here. It is a text box, but as the type is password, so that confirm password will also be displayed by Splunk. So we'll be saving this one. We will quickly restart the Splunk. We'll come back after Splunk restart completed. Okay, our Splunk restart completed. Even like you can do always, instead of restart, you can always do debug refresh as well over here optionally. So it's up to you, like whether you are in production or you are in your in testing phase or you are working in locally. So we'll go to, if you see it now, like the password and confirm password page, these two text boxes are automatically rendered by Splunk. Basically this one is automatically rendered by Splunk, the confirm password one. Okay, now two things, like this field names has to match over there. Okay, and we have to use this Splunk defined endpoint storage passwords to achieve this stuff over here. Okay, so let us try to save this one. Now username, as I told, we won't be bothering about much over this one, because in our input script we are not using username at all. We will be using mainly the API key over there, right? So username, that's why I'm giving some my name over here. Now but for your case, definitely you may need the username as well. Now if I just go to bin folder, current tmdb upcoming.py file, okay, over there, this was the API key we were using it previously, right? So this one will be storing it as a password over here. Okay, so I'll be giving this one, and the realm, as I told, let's say I'll be giving test over here. Okay, if you are creating multiple credentials, which some credentials sharing the same username, then maybe you would give this realm will come into picture, coming very handy in those scenarios. Now one thing, if I just click on save over here, okay, if you see successfully updated tmdb, you should be receiving this particular message over here. Okay, so let us try to see now what's going on. So we'll be going to tmdb local folder. Okay, if you see, it has created a new file called passwords.conf file. So if I let us see it from the code only. Okay, we will be going to local, we'll be going to passwords.conf over here. If you see, it created a stanza called credential, then colon, the realm name, then the colon, the username over here, right? And inside the password, it stores that API key as an encrypted format over here. Now it will only encrypt if you are saving it from that screen, from this particular screen. If you are updating this file passwords.conf manually, okay, and restart Splunk or anything you do, it will never encrypt that password. You have to remember this one. Okay, so it will only encrypt when you are saving it from this setup screen. So we successfully created a setup page, and we successfully updated our credentials using that setup page over there. Right now it is time to change this particular input script so that it will make use of that particular password. Okay, so for that we will be, as I told, we will be working on this tmdb underscore upcoming.py file. So the main idea behind this file is, it is basically, if I just go to tmdb app, okay, and see the index over here, index tmdb underscore index over here. Okay, so it basically fetch all the upcoming movies and basically index into Splunk. So currently we have 68 events. We'll be deleting those records, and we will be, after making the changes, we'll see how our new changes is working over there or not. And also, if you remember, while indexing that data, right, so inside the tmdb bin folder there is a folder called checkpoint. So it basically saves all the movie IDs whichever it indexes in so Splunk, so that it won't index it again. Okay, so I'll be sharing that video link over here as well, so that you can refer that one as well. So you have to delete this particular file entry from here, so that you can start from the fresh as well. So we will see those stuff. First we will try to build that tmdb underscore upcoming .py changes. Okay, so for that, what we'll do is we will first create that logger, so that whatever stuff we are doing, right, at least we can, using that logger log, we can see what's going on inside. Okay, so that's why I always prefer to create a logger. So for that, what we'll do is we will import logging. Okay, we will import logging.handlers, the same stuff I have discussed in our, when I discussed about the custom alert action, right, over there I discussed the same stuff as well. Maybe I'll be giving that video link over here as well, so that you can refer what I'm talking about. Okay, this is setting up logging as well. So we will create a new method called setup logger. So over there I discuss very details like how this one works. So I'll be just doing the coding stuff over here, so that we won't be discussing the same stuff again. Okay, so we have to give a level over here, like which level, like it's info or those stuff over here error as well. Okay, so we are creating a setup logger function first, method first over here. So logger equals to logging dot get logger. Okay, so over here you have to give a logger name. We'll be giving tmdb underscore upcoming over here. Okay, so this one. Now logger dot propagate propagate. So here equals to false over here. Maybe you are receiving some sounds over here because it's still Diwali mode in India, so people are enjoying. Okay, so this one basically used to prevent the log message from being duplicated in that python.log file. So that purpose only. Okay, so logger dot set level, okay, equals to the level we will be passing it over here, like error info, those stuff. Okay, so then the file handler, we have to file handler, we will be creating a new variable. Okay, which will basically say which file this log will be stored over there. Okay, logging dot handlers dot rotating file handler. Okay, so this basically we have to give the path over here. So for that we'll give os dot envir environment variable. So we'll be basically taking the Splunk home environment variable here. Okay, so splunk underscore home. So from Splunk home, because for Windows, for Linux, the Splunk home path is different, right? Or maybe you are customizing the Splunk so that you are basically installing the Splunk in separate path at all, right, compared to its default path. So that's why you always referring the Splunk home by this way. It is the code will be more generic over here. Okay, so plus, so we have to give, then from the Splunk home we'll be going to the var log Splunk. Okay, so now over here we'll be creating a log file called tmdb underscore upcoming dot log file. Okay, so as you know, like most for all the Splunk log files are stored in this particular directory, right? So we will be storing our file to this particular directory as well. Okay, now max bytes. Okay, let's say we'll be giving some higher number over here. Okay, and backup count we'll be giving, let's say 5, or you can give any number for how many backups will be there for your log file over here. Okay, so we have defined the file over here, right? So now we have to create another variable called formatter. Okay, so which will basically doing the how this log will be written to this log file. This is the code for this one. So formatter. Okay, so logging dot formatter. So this is how we will be storing that, we'll be writing this log file over here. Okay, so percentage, this one is C time. So first will be the time one. Okay, then is, then percentage level name over here. Okay, and then percentage messages over here. Okay, so this is the log formatting over here. Now we have to set that format for this particular file. So file underscore handler dot set formatter. Okay, so this is the formatter just now we created for this particular log file. So we'll be doing this one. Now logger dot add handler. Okay, so this file handler will be adding to this particular logger. Okay, and we will just return this logger over here. Okay, so we created the logger file. Now logger method over here. Now let us define, right? We have to call this one. Let us create a logger variable over here, which will be basically setting up this logger, initializing this particular logger with info first. Okay, so logging dot info. Okay, so this one. So this is, so we just set up the logger file over here. Okay, so now the actual work begins. We just did this one because we'll try to see internally what's going on. So now the second method we'll be designing is called get credentials over here. Okay, get credentials. So this will be our second method over here. Okay, now this particular method will be responsible to fetch that password stored in that passwords.conf file. So if I just show you this particular password, it will be fetching from this particular file. Okay, in clear text format, and it will be providing. That means we will be getting our API key back in our clear text format by calling this particular method over here. Okay, so for that, let us try to do this one. So I'll just make the structure ready first. Okay, except exception as E. Okay, so we will try to do something, and if something is coming up, we will raise an exception. Exception could not get the credentials from Splunk, let's say. Okay, I'll just say could not get credential from Splunk over here. Okay, and the first thing we'll do is there is a a module in Splunk called entities over here. Okay, so we will import that particular module here. Import Splunk dot entity as entity. Okay, so this particular module will be using to get all the credentials over here. Okay, so for that we will again come back over here. We will say entities. We'll create a variable called entities. Okay, we'll say entity dot get entities. That is the method. Okay, entities. Okay, get entities. Now we will be basically using this get entities method. We can call a particular endpoint in Splunk. Okay, now that endpoint will be same as the way we have written into Splunk as well, right? So through setup page we have used the endpoint called storage/passwords, right? So when we will be using the get entities, we will be using that storage and password endpoint only to fetch the data as well. Okay, so when inside the setup page, that post method will be getting called. So if I just go back to access point description, when we save it from the setup page, this method is getting called. When we will be doing it from our Python script, this get method will be called over here. That will be the difference over there, right? So let's go back over here. So we have to give the endpoint. So this is how we will be doing it. We'll be giving the endpoint fragment names as something like this one. So it will be storage, Control C, it will be storage, and the second fragment name will be passwords over here. Okay, the passwords over here as a list. Okay, so this is the stuff. Namespace, namespace, we have to give the app name over here. Okay, so let's create a variable called my app over here. Okay, my app, and as we are working with TMDB app, so we'll be giving the app folder name over here called TMDB. Okay, and owner, if you remember from my introduction video of Splunk REST API, right? So the way the REST API URLs are getting created, we have to give the namespace, we have to give the owner and the REST API endpoint name, right? So this is what those information only we are giving as an input to this get entity, so that internally it builds that endpoint and then calling that endpoint and fetching the data over here. Okay, as if we don't want the owner to be don't want any user context over here basically, so you will be giving the owner as nobody over here, right? I discussed the same stuff. Maybe I'll be giving that video link as well over here so that you can refer it. Now to access any endpoint inside Splunk from a Python script, you need to provide the session key over here. Okay, so this is important, session key. Okay, so I'll be giving the session key as a input to this method now. Okay, because some way we have to find a way to get the session key over here. Okay, we will see how to get that one. Now if you remember from my custom alert action video, to that custom alert action Python script, Splunk automatically sends the session key as a payload, as a part of the payload. But when we create a scripted input, in that case Splunk does not send it by default, that session key over there. Okay, so there is a way to do it. So let us try to see that one first. So for that, what I will do is we'll go to inputs.conf, right? So this is our scripted input, which is calling basically the tmdb underscore upcoming.py file, right? So with all these settings, we need to provide another settings called pass auth. Okay, so using this settings, Splunk will make sure that it will also provide the session key pass the session key to the script as a standard input over here. Okay, so that we will read it from our standard output over there. Okay, so we'll read it from the standard input over here. Splunk will be providing to the script as a standard output. Okay, now pass or the value will be Splunk system user. Okay, so this has to be the same way. Okay, so Splunk dash system that dash user over here. So this is the change we need to do for the inputs.conf, so that the Splunk will send the session key over here, right? So that means let us try to get the session key inside our main method. If you remember, we have this main method only, right, which is basically calling other programs to do this stuff. So let us first in between develop the main method as well to get the session key over here. Okay, so what it will do, we will read it from the sys dot stdin standard input dot read line. So it has a method called read line over there. So which basically is Splunk, if you do this one, so Splunk will, whatever Splunk has sent as a standard output, it will be reading as a standard input inside your script. Okay, so it will hold the value of the session key over here. To remove the space, we will be just stripping it. Okay, so this is our session key over here. Okay, so to print the session key, maybe we can use our logger over here. Okay, logger.info our session key, so that we will understand what session key Splunk is sending over here. Okay, so we got the session key. Maybe we can handle some error over here as well. If length of session key is 0, okay, so that means we have not received anything over here. Maybe we can put some error message in our log file as well. Okay, like did not receive a session key from Splunk D, didn't receive a session key from Splunk D. Maybe we need to enable the pass auth in the inputs.conf. Okay, this type of error handle you can do it. And if we have not received any session key over here, we can exit this code with status code 2 over here. Okay, so this is the change related to the session key. We will come back over here. Okay, it is giving me 3 errors. Okay, this one is unused, this one is unused, and it is definitely not able to find the Splunk entity, because the Python interpreter I am using it over here inside the code is not the Splunk one, it is outside one. So that's fine. It's going to work when it is working inside the Splunk environment. Okay, so we have our entity over here, right? So maybe we can use our logger, okay, to print this entity as well. We can see what's going on over there. Okay, so we have our entity. Now let us try to see what this particular entity looks like. Okay, unused variable e, maybe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You can always add that exception over here as well, plus str e. Okay, so let us try to see first what this entities looks like. Okay, then maybe we will try to add other logics over here as well. Okay, so for that, what we have to do is we have to go to search. Let us see if we go to settings, data inputs. It is a scripted input, right? So it will be storing under scripts over here, right? So this is our scripted input. If you see, currently it is enabled, right? So ideally, if I just see it from our TMDB app, okay, now where this particular log file will be created, so it will be created under var log splunk tmdb _ upcoming.log, right? So let us try to see that one. Splunk home var log Splunk. So does it created this file tmdb underscore upcoming dot log? If you see it over here, it already created that log file. Now to see that log file entry, maybe what we'll do is we will go to our underscore internal index and we'll write a query something like source equals to tmdb underscore upcoming over here. Okay, let us try to see it for last 15 minutes if anything is coming up over here, because every minute that particular job will be running. Okay, so let us try to wait for some times and see. Okay, before that, one thing I remembered is we have changed this inputs.conf using we have added this one, right? So from the backend, so we have to either restart Splunk or we have to basically do the debug refresh as well. Let me try to show you the debug refresh way this time. Okay, so for that, after this language setting, right, you have to give debug, then refresh. Okay, so one refresh button will be coming. We have to click on that one, so it will basically remove that cache and rebuilds that whole stuff, so that whatever changes we are doing it from our back end, right, it will be reflecting as well. Still the effect will be similar to whatever Splunk restart we are doing it over there. Okay, so in this way you do not need to restart the Splunk again and again. So let us try to see it now if anything is coming up to our log. Okay, so let us try to see it for last 15 minutes if anything is coming up. It's not. Let us try to see if we have done something wrong or not. So for that, what we'll do is we'll from the underscore internal itself we will search for tmdb underscore upcoming. If you see it over here, some errors are coming up over here. Key error messages. Okay, let us try to see it over here. I think it is coming up from here. It will be the outside. Okay, so this is the one fix we have done. Let us try to see it again. tmdb underscore upcoming. Okay, so one event is coming up now, so 11:51 now. Okay, so this is our session key, right? So let the script run. It should put some more stuff over here as well. Okay, it is not printing anything except the session key. Let me try to see that one. So first is the main method, we are session key. Okay, I got it, because we are not calling this particular get credentials method anywhere. We have just defined it, so that's why the entity is not getting printed over here. So let us just simply call this one, because we are not returning anything over here now. This method is still in work in progress. Okay, so we will just call this guy over here now. It should print the entities over here, like this is our get credentials, so it should print our entities over here. Okay, let us try to see that one. I just wanted to show you that stuff. Okay, so maybe another minute we have to wait it over here. So if you see it now, it is started printing the entities over here, right? So let us just copy it over here to our notepad. Okay, so maybe we'll just remove this one. Now if you see, it's basically a dictionary over here, right? So with all the details of our stanza, if you see, this is the realm name and the username, right? So there is a password, there is a clear password. If you see the clear password, which is basically holding my API key values over here, right? It is giving me the information about the realm and the access control level, everything it is giving, right? Now this particular entity will be giving you all the credentials you have at your system level. Okay, so you have to remember this one. Currently I have only one, so that's why it is giving me one. Otherwise it gives all the details of all the credentials over here. Okay, so so in that case, maybe you need to loop through it and get the entities whichever you want, which one you want basically. Okay, so we got a fair idea about how this entity uh, dictionary looks like, right? So now we will try to get that clear password. Okay, so we'll basically get this clear underscore password from here and use it in our main method as API key. We'll be replacing this API key now. Okay, so for that, what we need to do, we will go to get credentials method only. Okay, so after this one, so when we get the credentials from the Splunk, right, we will loop it through, right, because we have to make our code more generic over here in entities. ENTITIES, sorry about that, TIES entities dot. So now it is a dictionary, right? So that means items, right? So because of dictionary we are able to use this one. Now what we need to see it over here is there are two things over here. If I just go back to our notepad again, so there is a key called username over here. There is a key called clear password over here. We are bothering about these two stuff only. Other stuff we are don't bothering about at all. This eai.acl, we do not need it. Even this encrypted password also we do not need it at all. Okay, so we need this two stuff over here. So what we'll do is we will write a logic something like this, because over here it may happen that we will have lot of usernames, right? So we just need the username currently. To make it very simplistic, what we will do is we'll compare. If the username is Sid, then we will take the clear password. Now according to your scenario, maybe you have to handle it accordingly, according to your scenario. So if C, okay, C the username, so we will be copying this particular key name from here. Okay, this C is coming from here. Okay, if C username is Sid, okay, so then only we will be returning, okay, the C password over here. That's all. C clear password. Very simplistic logic we'll be using. We'll just try to understand what's going on, right? So we'll not make it more complex over here. So C clear password over here. Okay, now if something else is going on, that means if we are not able to get the C username Sid, then we will raise an exception. Raise exception. Okay, no credentials have been found. No credentials have been found. Okay, that means either it will return or it will raise an exception over here. Okay, so now we are returning something from our get credentials method, right? So what I will do now, instead of API key equals to hard coding that API key, we'll write something like API key equals to get credentials session key, right? So that means this get credentials, in turn we will call this Splunk endpoint, get the clear password and send it as a API key over here, right? So let's save it. Let's try to first see. Okay, we will directly see it now. Okay, so for that what we'll do is we will go back to our TMDB index and we will delete the index. Let us do it for all time. Okay, so we will delete the index from here. Okay, I just newly set it up, so I'll just make this work. Okay, because we have to, from the user access control, we have to make it, I have to give the candidate permission. I'll try to do it as soon as possible. Okay, I have given admin user can delete role, so now I will be able to delete it. Okay, so our TMDB index is nothing is there now. Okay, now another thing we have to do is from our checkpoint.txt file we'll be removing all these movie IDs so that it won't index because of this entry over here. Okay, so that means we are ready to accept the new data over here. Now let us try to see our data inputs. I think it is already enabled, right? Every minute it is running. So scripts, right? So every minute it is running and currently it is enabled. So if everything goes fine, that means we are able to successfully get the API key from our passwords.conf as a clear text. Then we are able to call the TMDB API as well, right? So that means the data should be getting indexed over here. If you see, just now the data is getting indexed. It's 2 a.m. now, right? So that means our script is running. That means our way of storing our credentials and retrieving the credentials using the Splunk REST endpoints storage slash passwords are working perfectly over here. Okay, now there is another endpoint which is undocumented. That's why I have not used it over here, called admin slash passwords, but that actually works for the admin roles only, and it is undocumented as well. Maybe in Splunk documentation, even Splunk development site also, they have used this one. So that's why I have not used it, because that is undocumented, which I do not want to use it at all. Okay, so that's why I used storage passwords endpoint everywhere. Like when we are saving the credentials from the setup page, when we are retrieving the credentials from our Python script as well. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful. In future videos also we will try to see how to define our own custom endpoint and use it in our setup page as well. That will be more interesting stuff to discuss. Okay, see you in next video.